Why love isn't what you think it is. A psychological and philosophical journey into dependency, idealization, and projection in relationships. They taught you that love is the answer, that it will save you, heal you, make you whole. They didn't tell you that what we often call love is a beautiful mask hiding fear, hunger, and old wounds. You thought love would feel like light, but most of what you chased felt like panic, and no one explained why. From the moment we're born, we're fed a myth. Stories where love is effortless, where the right person knows without asking, heals without hurting, and makes the pain go away without ever facing it. Fairy tales, romantic movies, songs, all of them whisper one thing: find someone who will complete you, and everything will fall into place. But here's the truth. The love you imagine is not love. It's a projection, a craving, a need to be held in the ways you were once abandoned. What you're calling love might be your fear of being alone. What you're calling chemistry might be your nervous system recognizing familiar chaos. What you're calling he's the one might just be the unhealed girl in you begging to finally be chosen. This is the heartbreak no one prepares you for. The heartbreak of waking up in a relationship and realizing you never really saw the other person. You only saw what you wanted them to be. You only saw the version your wounds needed. We don't fall in love with people. We fall in love with symbols, symbols of safety, of redemption, of power, and sometimes of the parent who never truly saw us. That's why love burns so brightly at first. It feels like coming home, until you realize you came back to the same empty room. We idealize, we imagine, we believe, because the truth is too heavy. Real love requires a real self, not a mask, not a performance, not a fantasy. And if you've never met yourself, you will never truly meet another. So what is it that we keep calling love? It's often a hunger to be touched where we were neglected, a hunger to be wanted without having to ask, a hunger to be finally enough, without earning it, without shrinking for it. And because this hunger feels intense, overwhelming, even sacred, we mistake it for something pure. But hunger is not love. Dependency is not love. Control is not love. Love doesn't scream. It doesn't cling. It doesn't ask you to disappear so that someone else can stay. But most of us never learned this. We grew up learning that love has to be earned, that love means pleasing, fixing, sacrificing, that if we are good enough, quiet enough, needed enough, we won't be left. So we carry this into adulthood. We choose partners not by soul, but by wound. We're drawn not to what is healthy, but to what is familiar, even if that familiarity hurts, and we stay. Because leaving feels like failure. Because breaking the illusion feels like breaking ourselves. Because walking away from the person who meant everything forces us to confront that maybe we meant nothing to ourselves. But that's where love begins. Not when someone chooses you, not when someone stays. Love begins the moment you stop betraying yourself for the sake of being loved. Love is not the spark. It's not the butterflies. It's not the emotional roller coaster. Love is the silence that feels safe, the honesty that feels soft, the connection that asks nothing but presence. But to feel that, you must go through the unraveling. You must shed the fantasy. You must see clearly. And that hurts. Because when the illusion dies, so does the girl who believed in it. And that's terrifying. But it's also freedom. Because on the other side of that collapse is you, the real you, the woman who doesn't need to be chosen to feel worthy. The woman who doesn't chase love like a drug. The woman who finally understands love is not something you find. It's something you become. Stay with this pain. Don't run, because what comes next will change everything. You don't fall in love with a person. You fall in love with what you see in them, or rather, what your wounds want to see. And that's not love, that's projection. He walks into the room. He looks a certain way, moves a certain way, speaks with a voice that pulls something out of you. It feels electric, irresistible. But if you stop and strip away the surface, you'll realize it wasn't about him. It was about what your body remembered, what your subconscious craved. Maybe he reminds you of someone, not consciously, but in a deeper, older way. Maybe he mirrors your father's coldness, and you see in him a second chance to finally be seen. Maybe he reminds you of your first love, the one that got away, the one you never stopped writing poems about in your mind. So when you say, "I love him," be honest. Do you love him as he is? Or do you love how he makes you feel in moments of closeness when the fantasy is still intact? Projection is a powerful force. It's the mind's way of filling in the blanks. He doesn't talk much, so you assume he's deep. He avoids your questions, so you think he's mysterious. He hurts you, so you believe it's a test you must pass to deserve him. You aren't loving him. You're loving the story your heart wrote long before he appeared. This is where heartbreak hides. Because one day the real man shows up. Not the ideal, not the fantasy, but the flawed, confused, unavailable human being. And you're left staring at someone who no longer fits the role. And it hurts. Not because of what he is, but because of what he'll never be. Jung called it anima and animus, inner figures that live inside us, the ideal feminine and the ideal masculine. We carry them within us, shaped by childhood, by culture, by dreams. And when we meet someone, that figure awakens. Suddenly he feels like everything you were waiting for. But you weren't waiting for him. You were waiting for the reflection of your inner masculine, someone who would finally protect, lead, ground you. But no one can live up to a projection because projections aren't love. They're needs in costume. They're the parts of you that were never held, finally seeing a chance to be touched. This is why you get obsessed. This is why you lose sleep. This is why you twist yourself to fit what he might want. You're not just afraid of losing him. You're afraid of losing what he represents. So here's the hardest truth. The one who broke your heart might not even know who you are, because you didn't really know who he was either. You were both swimming in each other's unconscious oceans, trying to find land in each other's waves, and yet there's something beautiful in this, because it means your pain isn't proof that love doesn't work. It's proof that your soul is trying to remember itself through another. Every projection is a mirror, and once it shatters, once you stop fighting the truth, you begin to see yourself, the woman underneath the illusion, the one who doesn't need someone to complete her because she was never incomplete. This is where love begins to heal. Not when the right person walks in, but when the illusion walks out. And you no longer confuse intensity for intimacy, because love isn't about what he makes you feel. It's about who you are when you're not trying to be loved. There's a kind of love that doesn't feel like love. It feels like withdrawal, like panic, like drowning in silence when he doesn't text back. It feels like checking your phone every 5 minutes and calling it caring, like crying into your pillow and calling it being in love, like losing weight, sleep, and your sense of reality and calling it romance. But this isn't love. This is addiction. Not to the person, but to the feeling they awaken in you, to the rush, the high, the spark that comes when they finally look at you, finally say something sweet after days of coldness. It's a pattern, a loop. They hurt you, then give you just enough to keep you hoping. And every little drop of attention feels like oxygen. You convince yourself it's passion, that every strong love has storms, that this intensity means it's real, but inside you're dying. Slowly, quietly, beautifully maybe, but still dying. Here's the truth. You don't love him. You love how he temporarily silences the war inside you. You love how he makes you feel when he chooses you, because you never chose yourself. When he pulls away, it's not just rejection. It's abandonment of the inner child in you who was already left too many times. It's not just losing a partner. It's reliving every time you weren't enough. So you cling, not because he's right for you, but because he feels necessary. You think, if he leaves, who will remind me that I matter? But the bitter truth is, you gave him that power. You made him the gatekeeper of your worth. You made his love the medicine for wounds that were never his to heal, and this is what makes it addiction. You know it's hurting you, but you can't stop. You feel powerless, small, ashamed, but you stay. You hope, you beg, you perform, and all the while you call it love. Because love, they told you, is sacrifice. Because love, they told you, is pain that pays off in the end. But what they didn't tell you is this: real love doesn't ask you to abandon yourself. It doesn't make you sick. It doesn't turn you into a shadow of who you were before him. Addiction has a cycle, and so does trauma. If you grew up without consistent love, you'll chase inconsistency. Not because it feels good, but because it feels familiar. This is why safe love feels boring, why kind men feel not your type, because your nervous system doesn't recognize calm. It craves chaos. It calls anxiety chemistry. And until you break that loop, you will always choose what feels like home, even if that home was a battlefield. The first step is seeing it, not blaming him, not blaming yourself, but naming it. This is addiction, not love. This is longing, not connection. This is fear of self, dressed up as desire for another. And once you see it, you can begin. Begin to come back to yourself. Begin to grieve the illusions. Begin to say no to the hunger that once ruled your choices. Because love should not taste like survival. It should feel like truth. There's a strange kind of magnetism between you and those who can't love you back. You know how it ends. You know the heartbreak, the waiting, the silence. And still, you go there again and again. He's unavailable, emotionally distant. Maybe he has someone else. Maybe he disappears for days and returns with empty words. But something in you lights up the moment he gives you the smallest sign of interest. You feel alive. You feel hope. You feel like this time, maybe, it'll be different. But it never is. And deep down, you know. So why do you stay drawn to people who don't choose you? Because part of you believes you don't deserve to be chosen. Because there's a familiar pain in not being enough. And that pain is easier to sit with than the terror of real intimacy. You weren't always like this. There was a time, maybe as a little girl, when someone important didn't choose you. Maybe it was a parent who was too busy, too cold, too absent. Maybe you had to fight for attention, to earn your worth, to silence your needs. So your body learned something dangerous. Love equals waiting. Love equals being better. Love equals chasing what's always out of reach. And now, when someone shows up and sees you, really sees you, it's uncomfortable. It doesn't ignite that familiar ache. It doesn't feel like home, because home was never safe. Home was silence, rejection, trying harder. So that's what your nervous system learned to call love. It's not your fault. This is how trauma works. It repeats itself, begging to be completed. Your psyche keeps recreating the same dynamic, hoping that this time the story ends differently. That this time the unavailable one will stay. that this time the one who keeps leaving will turn around, but they won't, because it's not about them. It never was. You're not seeking love. You're seeking justice for your inner child. You're trying to rewrite history with someone who reminds you of the one who hurt you. But no man, no matter how magnetic, charming, or broken, can give you that justice. Only you can. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop choosing those who don't choose you is the moment you start choosing yourself. It will feel unfamiliar. It might feel boring. You'll want to run, to go back to the thrill of the chase, to the ache of uncertainty. But don't. Stay. Stay in the stillness. Stay in the discomfort of being loved without performing. Stay with the fear that rises when someone sees your softness and doesn't exploit it. Because love, real love, is not supposed to feel like pain relief. It's not supposed to be a rescue mission. It's not supposed to trigger your wounds so deeply that you forget who you are. You've mistaken pain for depth. You've mistaken rejection for worth. You've mistaken patterns for passion. But now you see it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You deserve to be chosen, not because you begged, chased, or proved your value, but because you're already whole. You don't have to earn a place in someone's heart. You were never meant to audition for love. They told you there's someone out there who will complete you. Your missing half, your mirror, your destiny. It sounds romantic, like something written in the stars. But this myth, as beautiful as it seems, is one of the most dangerous beliefs you can carry, because it teaches you to look outside yourself for wholeness, to see yourself as incomplete, to believe that love means dissolving into another person. This is the cult of merging. You meet someone, the connection is intense, you feel seen, adored, chosen, and you start disappearing, not all at once, but gradually. You make room, you shift your shape, you quiet your truth, you become smaller, softer, easier, just to stay close. You think love means closeness without space. You think we is more important than I. And slowly, the line between where he ends and you begin vanishes. But here's the problem. When you merge with someone, you lose your center. You forget your voice. You silence your needs to preserve the illusion of unity. This isn't love. It's enmeshment. It's control, disguised as connection. It's the slow erasure of self for the comfort of being wanted. You think, if I give him everything, he won't leave. If I become what he needs, I'll be enough. If I shrink just a little more, this will finally feel like love. But it never does. Because love isn't fusion. It's not sacrifice. It's not becoming half of something else. Real love is two whole beings, choosing to walk together, not to collapse into each other. We've been taught that love means surrendering identity, but that kind of surrender is the root of resentment. One day you wake up next to someone and realize you don't recognize the woman in the mirror. You gave so much of yourself away, hoping it would make you loved, but all it made you was invisible. Healthy love respects individuality. It honors space, autonomy, truth. It's not threatened by your dreams, your power, your solitude. It doesn't ask you to trade your fire for peace. The soulmate myth tells you that someone out there owns the other half of your soul. But your soul is not split. You're not missing anything. When you believe you are incomplete, you become easy to control, easy to manipulate, easy to break, and that's not romantic. That's dangerous. True connection happens not when you lose yourself, but when you find someone who reminds you not to, someone who holds space for all that you are, even the parts you were told were too much. So forget the idea that love means becoming one. You were not made to dissolve. You were made to expand. Let your love be big enough to include both of you. Let your relationship be the place where freedom and closeness coexist. Let go of the myth and choose something real. You think intimacy is found in bodies pressed close, in late-night talks, in the way he looks at you when no one else is around. But intimacy, real intimacy, begins long before the touch. It begins in the terrifying act of showing who you really are, not the curated version, not the charming, easy, desirable you, but the raw, messy, aching parts, the ones you usually hide, the ones that whisper, if he sees this, he'll leave. Intimacy is not built on passion. It's built on truth. And truth is vulnerable, it's uncomfortable, it shakes the illusion. It requires you to stand there, unmasked, and let someone actually see you. That's why most people mistake intensity for closeness, because passion feels powerful. It's magnetic. It sweeps you away. It makes you feel something big, even if it's pain. But that's not intimacy. That's adrenaline. It's the body's response to uncertainty, to chaos, to hope wrapped in fear. Intimacy, by contrast, is quiet. It's the moment you say, I'm scared, and don't get punished for it. It's the silence that isn't heavy, the eye contact that doesn't demand, the feeling of being held emotionally, not just physically. But here's the thing. Intimacy requires emotional maturity. It demands presence. It needs two people who are willing to sit in discomfort, to face their own triggers, to stay when things aren't glowing and poetic. And that's hard, because most of us were never taught how to be seen without performing. We grew up thinking love is approval, that love is attention earned by perfection. So when someone gets too close, we panic. We sabotage. We shut down or cling tighter. We try to become more desirable instead of more honest. We confuse being wanted with being known, but they're not the same. Someone can want your body and never touch your soul. Someone can obsess over you and still never know you. Being needed isn't the same as being met. Being desired isn't the same as being safe. And staying together isn't the same as being connected. The real question isn't, does he love me? It's, can I be all of me in this space and still be held with care? Can I say no? Can I fall apart? Can I grow, change, shift, and not lose everything? True intimacy holds all that. It allows rupture. It allows repair. It allows you to be real without paying the price of rejection. And that kind of love doesn't just happen. It's created, moment by moment, truth by truth, choice by choice. It asks for courage. Because to be seen, truly seen, is the most dangerous and the most sacred thing we can experience. So when you ask for intimacy, be ready, not to be adored, but to be known. Because only when you stop hiding does love become real. You spent your life searching for love, in glances, in words, in someone's arms. You chased it like a horizon, always just out of reach. And every time it slipped away, you thought the problem was you. Too much, too little, too emotional, too distant. But the truth was simpler. You weren't chasing love. You were chasing proof. Proof that you were enough. Proof that someone could stay. Proof that your pain was worth healing. And in doing that, you gave your power away. You handed strangers the keys to your worth. You let love become something to win, something to earn, something to keep at any cost. But love, real love, doesn't live outside of you. It's not something you get. It's not a prize. It's not a rescue mission. It's not the moment he says, I choose you. It's the moment you say, I choose myself, and I still choose to love. Because love is not a feeling. It's a frequency, a way of moving through the world, a way of holding others and holding your boundaries, a way of staying open without being consumed. It's not the fairy tale. It's not the fantasy. It's not the climax of a movie or the last page of a book. It's ordinary. It's brave. It's messy. It's human. And it begins inside you when you stop performing, when you stop pleasing, when you stop begging to be chosen and start living like you already are, because you are chosen, whole, enough. And from that place, love stops being hunger. It becomes presence. It becomes peace. It becomes truth. No longer a game. No longer a mask. No longer a story you tell yourself to feel worthy. Just you, awake, grounded, real, and love, no longer something you wait for, but something you are.